This is the Economic Club of Florida, a distinguished platform for discussion of the major national issues of the day. On today's program, Bob Rice of Tangent Capital Partners on the radical changes to society and the economy that artificial intelligence will soon bring, and how to be prepared.
This is a clarion call. This is a 5-alarm fire. It's not going away. You can't ignore it out of existence. It's going to fundamentally change the way most occupations operate. You've got to start using it right now. If you're not using it, you have to get familiar with it. You have to understand its limitations. You have to understand how to talk to it.
Good day and welcome to the 577th in our series of distinguished speaker programs. I'm Harvey Bennett for the Economic Club of Florida. Today's program is certainly timely. It addresses the healthy skepticism many of us have about the digital economy we're growing into. What is it? What does it want from us? What checks and balances are necessary from a regulatory and legal standpoint, and likewise from an investment management standpoint? We're delighted to have with us today a Renaissance man who combines many talents and disciplines and is uniquely qualified to answer these questions. He is Bob Rice, managing partner of New Jersey-based Tangent Capital Partners. He's also an adjunct professor of law at Florida State University, from which we record this. He's working to get the law school and the business school to partner on educational offerings for both students and continuing executive education in the community. Bob, welcome.
Thank you very much. It is a true honor to be with you today.
Well, gosh, you have had a very interesting life journey that, at least professionally, started off as a lawyer. But let's get going a little bit before then. Tell us about your upbringing.
Oh, gee. Well, I grew up in Jacksonville. Didn't have a luxurious childhood. Maybe is the best way to put it. Went to Florida Junior College at Jacksonville at the time, and matriculated to the Florida State University. Didn't know what in the world to do with myself, so stayed here for law school, and then got a big break and got a job at the U.S. Justice Department. So I left Tallahassee, went to Washington, and met my wife there, who was also a trial lawyer for justice, like me, and we therefore had to move to New York because she was based in New York. Her family was in New York. She's Italian-American. We were not going to be leaving her family. Went up to New York, and I became a partner at Milbank, one of the big Wall Street law firms. And that's so that was my legal career, but it didn't. I was a partner there actually for 10 years.
A lot of financial cases there, or?
Well, it was, yes, I did tax, intellectual property. I did financial product creation for a lot of the major Wall Street banking firms. So I left the litigation and started doing more substantive product formulation, marketing, distribution, and that really was incredibly useful. What was interesting, though, actually, was that coming from where I came from, Milbank represented the Rockefellers, the Chase Bank, and they had represented the Rockefeller family forever, the Gettys, the Onassis, and so this was a completely different world. I mean, what in the world? I had no idea about how did these people make money? How did they, they're not investing in stocks and bonds like normal people. That's not, they're not relying on their IRA to, and how does that work? And so it became a real, puzzle for me to kind of figure out. And of course, it was a wonderful place to learn about all of that stuff. And it was an incredible law firm and an incredible time in my life.
How do you leave that, and where did you go, and why?
Well, it's almost too bizarre to believe, but the fact of the matter is this. I've always been kind of an entrepreneurial guy, wanted new clients, so I started the Wall Street Chess Club. And because I realized chess clubs are not nice places, they're kind of gross usually. So, what if we had a high-end chess club? And sure enough, we started it. And immediately the head of Goldman Sachs came, George Soros came, all sorts of people started coming because there were a lot of Wall Street guys who play chess. So it turned into a wild success. At the same time, Moscow was beginning to shake apart. And so the chess players were leaving there. They didn't have anywhere else to go except New York. So everybody So pretty soon, between one thing and another, I had the strongest chess club in the world because the chess players were coming to learn to make money while the executives were coming to learn to play chess. And so it was a very symbiotic relationship. I became good friends with Garry Kasparov, who greatest player of all time. I had an incredible opportunity. I ran the first and one of the very few, but the first commercial event ever held inside the Kremlin. As a result of that, a World Chess Championship event. We played a World Chess Championship event on the top of the World Trade Center. And then Gary one day said to me, Bob, I have a Russian scientist I'd like you to meet. And I met him, and he was a brilliant guy, Sasha Magdal, one of the great theoretical physicists in the world, yet to this day. He had an invention for a 3D capture camera, which he showed me. He wasn't willing to show other Americans, but Gary said, no, this is an American lawyer you can trust, so you can show it to him. He showed it to me, and it just blew my mind. I took him around to try to get funding, and one of my clients said, well, Bob, I'll write a check, but if you think I'm going to write a check to a Russian scientist, you're crazy. I'll write one to you. Why don't you come out? You run the company. And that's how I left the law. We started that company. I got bought by a public company. I became the CEO of the public company. I ran the public company for several years after that.
Right, and now you're involved in yet the next stage.
Right, and then we resold that company. I came back to Wall Street. I started Tangent Capital, and this is where it ties back to the Milbank years, trying to figure out ways of delivering the same kinds of exposures and investments that the ultra-wealthy have to normal people, because I grew up in Jacksonville, as I said, and it's really become a mission to me to figure out how to democratize access to those kinds of investments. Everybody should have that stuff in their 401ks and their IRAs, and back in the days when you had a defined benefit plan, and most people don't anymore, those things got funded by these same kinds of investments: private equity, private credit, private real assets. So the question is, how do we do that for people today in this society? And that's really what I'm focused on.
And in the meantime, you have grown into becoming a nationally known financial industry educator.
Well, I do I'd like to talk, as you can tell. So it works.
Bob Rice, managing partner of Tangent Capital Partners. Thank you, sir. We're looking forward to hearing your upcoming presentation on the radical consequences of a digital economy.
Thank you.
Now, here's the president of the Economic Club of Florida, Katrina Roll.
Welcome to the Economic Club of Florida's 577th meeting in our continuing series of distinguished speaker programs. I'm Katrina Roll, and I have the honor of serving as your club president this year. I hereby call this meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones so that our program is not interrupted. And now please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an exciting program planned for you today. We are honored to have Bob Rice as our luncheon speaker. He is a distinguished senior advisor to prominent Wall Street institutions and best-selling author. With an extensive background spanning finance, law, and media, Bob brings a wealth of expertise to our gathering today. Lo Bilby, our past chair, will introduce Bob shortly. In addition to today's speaker, we have lined up some really great speakers this year, including on April 2nd, that's less than 2 weeks away, Dr. Nilüfer Ertekin-Taner will join us to discuss towards precision medicine therapies and biomarkers in neurodegenerative diseases. May is being finalized, but please add June 25th to your calendar. Clark Micah with the Institute of Makers of Explosives will be our luncheon speaker. We were trying to get that for July 4th area, but we just couldn't get that done. But it's true explosive, not fireworks. You won't want to miss these programs, so please continue to look out for them on the website and through emails. So our Economic Club of Florida sponsors are a very important part of our club's success. Today we want to thank EMT eLink for being our club's sponsor. I would like to ask Dr. Jay Walton, the founder of EMT eLink, to come to the podium and share insights about your company and initiatives.
Thank you, Katrina. I have my company president, Dean Massey, here. Dean, would you raise your hand up there for me? I purposely had him sit there at the table, and he was there by himself for a little while because I was hoping that at the end of this, some of you might want to go and talk to him and find out how EMT E-Link actually works. It's Emergency Medical Technology Electronic Link. So we are absolutely delighted to sponsor today's program, in particular because I know absolutely nothing about the digital economy. And Dean will tell you that I know nothing about computers, but I'm an idea guy about what computers probably should do. And I can tell you I don't know anything about what you're going to talk about, and Lord, I'm happy to be here. But what I do know is this. Every one of us should at all times have all of our medical information at our fingertips. On my cell phone right now, I have all of my medical records, including x-rays. And, I can contact all my emergency contacts. It'll geolocate me anywhere in the world. It'll send help to me. And all of us should have that, and you will have that in the not-too-distant future. So with that, if you have questions afterwards, see Dean over there, because he can tell you how it works and I can't. And with that, we'll go on with Mr. Rice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay and Dean, for that, and thank you for sponsoring today. For those of you in attendance, if you or your company wants to be a sponsor in the future, please see me or any of our board members to find out more information. I would now like to recognize and thank our trustee members. Our club trustee members provide additional financial support to the club each year. In return, they receive exclusive benefits such as attending receptions with our speakers and having an opportunity to speak with them in a small group gathering. Today they had the pleasure of engaging with Bob Rice, our speaker today. Our trustee members are also invited to attend other local events which we from time to time host. If you are a trustee, first thank you and please stand to be recognized. Trustees, please stand. So we have a number of guests today, but in the interest of time, we're not going to do the introductions, but I am going to ask if you are a guest, please stand. Welcome to the Economic Club of Florida. We hope you have an interest in joining us. Their applications are on the website, and they're also at the front desk with Rachel and Stephen. And now I want to introduce the head table. We're already to that point. Again, please show your applause until everyone has been introduced. I'll first start with Lo. Lo is the immediate past chair of the Economic Club of Florida. He is also a prominent figure in Florida's legal landscape with a distinguished career as a first chair business trial lawyer at the esteemed global law firm Greenberg Traurig. Lo regularly is recognized in the best lawyers in America and contributes his insights to various statewide practice committees within the Florida Bar. His influence extends beyond the courtroom. In addition to being our immediate past chair, he is also former president of the Tallahassee Bar Association. Lo's tenure as a former state prosecutor for the Florida Second Judicial Circuit underscores his commitment to justice and the rule of law. Dr. Jay Walton, who is our sponsor, his illustrious career in dentistry is a testament to his dedication and expertise. He is a graduate of both the University of Florida and Emory University's College of Dentistry. Dr. Walton's journey took him from serving as a dentist in the U.S. Navy, where he rose to the rank of lieutenant commander, to establishing a thriving practice here in Tallahassee, where he has served our community for 48 years. His leadership roles in various dental associations, including president of the Leon County and Northwest District Dental Associations, as well as his involvement in state and national advocacy efforts, underscores his commitment to advancing the field of dentistry. He currently serves on the Florida Medical Malpractice Joint Underwriters Board of Directors. Jay and his wife, Susan, who we all love, have 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, and they all live here in Tallahassee. What a blessing, right? So the Honorable Charlie Dotson. Charlie has had a distinguished career spanning over 3 decades as a trial lawyer and 12 as a circuit judge. He now channels his expertise into alternative dispute resolution with the Osteen firm here in Tallahassee. Hailing from a sprawling family with deep roots in East Texas and North Alabama, Charlie's upbringing instilled values of resilience and community. His academic pursuits led him from big old Sneeze High School to the prestigious quarters of the United States Military Academy at West Point and Florida State University College of Law, where he graduated with high honors in 1977. Together with his wife, Samantha Boge, Charlie finds fulfillment in their blended family of 6 children and 13 grandchildren. Bobby Bacon. Bobby stands as a beacon of expertise in both accounting and insurance, holding licenses as a certified public accountant and a chartered property casualty underwriter. As chairman of the board for the Earl Bacon Agency, he spearheads a legacy of excellence spanning 6 decades in Tallahassee, where the agency remains a trusted provider of insurance solutions to families and businesses across North Florida. With a commitment to service and a depth of knowledge, Bobby continues to steer the agency towards continued success. The Earl Bacon Agency was founded by Bobby's dad, Earl Bacon, and Bobby shared with me that on March 31st, his parents will celebrate their 73rd wedding anniversary. And now I'd like to invite Lo to introduce our featured speaker, Mr. Bob Rice.
It's my pleasure today to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Bob Rice. Bob began his career as a trial lawyer. This is why he and I have gotten along so well today. He began his career with the U.S. Department of Justice and then served as a tax, ERISA, and financial products partner in private legal practice. Bob left his legal practice to found a technology startup company that became a larger public company known as Viewpoint, and Bob served as its CEO and chairman until he returned to Wall Street and launched broker-dealer Tangent Capital Partners. Bob's diverse career, which spans capital markets, technology, and law, fuels his freshly and unexpected perspectives on topics ranging from the digital revolution to federal policy and how these subjects that seem unrelated on the surface actually intersect and drive each other. Bob is a senior advisor to several major Wall Street institutions, including Apollo, NASDAQ, Wilshire Associates, and others, and he sits on boards of investment advisors with $6 billion of assets under management, all while still managing Tangent Capital. I'm proud to say that Bob holds 2 degrees from Florida State University, a Bachelor of Science degree and his law degree, and he serves as an adjunct professor at FSU College of Law, where he teaches the law and business of investment management. He is also the best-selling author. What else does he not do? He is the best-selling author of 3 Moves Ahead and The Alternative Answer, and he is a frequent keynote speaker at major financial industry events. Please welcome and give a strong Economic Club of Florida welcome to Bob Rice.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yep, that's going to be very important. Uh-oh.
Who's got?
It'll come back. Hello. It'll come, I think. It is really a fantastic honor to be here.
Here's the microphone right here. Hold it with your hand.
Oh, yeah. I can't stand still in front of the thing.
Is this okay?
Thank you. It's a wonderful, wonderful honor to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. It's always wonderful to get back to Tallahassee, see friends, get re-involved with the school, which changed my life,
And it's a great, great, great pleasure to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about something kind of interesting, I think, the radical consequences, and they are radical, of a digital economy which is happening right now at a rate of speed that is literally hard, for me anyway, to comprehend. And I've been following this space for quite some time, since the early 90s or late 90s when I started my tech company. So let me ask you this, just to get started. Shall we? I just want to ask you a question. What is this thing here? What is that? Anybody want to guess? The amazing thing is if I showed it to the kids who actually go to school here and I just showed them that little black tape thing with the white thing over them, they would have no idea what that is all by itself, much less what the overall thing is. So what is this thing? This is the first digital camera. From the late 70s, that would be well less than, actually, late 70s, less than 50 years ago. Now think about going from that, which was the size of like a microwave oven, to what you're holding in your pocket right now, and the pictures that takes, and think that it can communicate with about half the human beings on the planet Earth instantaneously. Not just that you can take a picture, an incredible picture, or a video, and send it to anybody instantly in less than 50 years. That era has been amazing, right? Because what also happened at about the same time? The popularization of PCs and this thing called the internet. So the three of those things together have created an environment of change, which we've experienced. So the radical consequences of the digital economy don't start now. They've been going on. When we get to the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you some of the impacts that you don't really realize or think about, but have been driven directly by a digital economy. But now I want to talk about those three inventions coming together have changed our lives, in every possible way. But folks, it's just getting started. So let's think about what that was, which captured an image, and now you've got something which captured an image, but what if instead of capturing an image, we just tell, and I mean literally use English words to tell a computer what image we would like it to create for us. We don't actually have to take a picture. We can just imagine a scene and tell it, and it creates the scene. Well, this is what's happening right now. The latest iteration of ChatGPT. Sorry about the logistics here. We have to change things. OpenAI has created a new system, and so what I'm going to show you now is three very, very short video vignettes, each of which was created by a machine in response to a text prompt, either written in or spoken. What I want you to keep remembering when you see these images is they were literally created from nothing. They weren't taken from a video that pre-existed on the internet and then adopted. They literally started with a blank screen with no pixels at all on the screen. So here's the first one. This prompt is, show me giant woolly mammoths running through a snowy field with long fur wool, and wow, that's pretty good. Created from nothing because of a text prompt. Or how about this one? Beautiful Tokyo, snowy city evening, people walking through, gorgeous flower petals in the air. Bang! This is what you get out the backside. Or you can even have it focus on certain features that you want. You could say to it, hey, create a furry monster with a focus on lighting and texture. Wonder and curiosity. Look, wonder and curiosity. How does it interpret that? Wonder and curiosity. Ooh. Cameras have come a long way, huh? Now, let's talk about the first radical consequence, because that's what it's called, right? Radical consequences. Tyler Perry, the big movie guy in Atlanta, right? He got shown this literally like a month ago. He walked out, and this is what he told the Hollywood Reporter. I'm putting my $800 million studio expansion on hold. Jobs are going to be lost. Ooh, that's not good. but it's real. And so that is a radical consequence. Now, we're going to talk about how we're going to cope with that as a society as we get deeper into this presentation. But I want to kind of set the stage. The advances are mind-blowing, as you see. The consequences are also mind-blowing. And we got to get ready. And to the educators in this room, and thank God you're here, and thank God this is, and I know for a fact that some of the educators in the room are paying attention to this. It's going to change everything, absolutely every element of our society. Indeed, this isn't a revolution. It's not merely a revolution. It's a revolutionary revolution. And the reason it's a revolutionary revolution is because it's not happening in one domain of human existence or knowledge, or it's not a specialty thing. It applies to absolutely everything. There is no kind of human endeavor to which this doesn't apply. You understand perfectly well that it's already impacting the war in the Ukraine, and it's obviously entertainment, as we just saw. Some of the medical advances that are coming out of this are absolutely mind-blowing. The ability to create brand new antibodies out of proteins specifically for your body, which is happening right now. All of these things, it's wondrous, amazing, but very consequential. So that's one reason it's a revolutionary revolution. Another reason is because it covers every modality: text, speech, images. It can output computer code. It can input computer code. It can output videos, as you see. Anybody can talk to it. You don't need to be a specialist with 20 years of training to use this tool. You need to be able to speak or write or something, and it will take care of it and do what you want it to do. So that's another reason it's revolutionary. It goes across everything, and you can communicate with it, and it can communicate it with you in any way you want. And in one of the things that I find most fascinating, everybody is going to have it. Everybody. Not some people, not the scientists, not some guy in a lab somewhere. Everybody's going to have it. And you know when they're going to have it? Right now. And it's coming at you because it's being delivered through ubiquitous platforms. Anybody have like Microsoft on their computer, for example? You know, it's coming through all of these. The Apple iPhone is going to have a very advanced form of AI the next version of it when it comes out. So everybody's getting it. Everybody's going to be using it. You can't help it. You can't hide from it. It's coming for you. And by the way, not only that, but Meta has an AI that they are giving away. It's open source, truly open source. It's been downloaded about 150 million times. There are 150 million smart people just on the free one from Meta who are working to improve its capabilities. 150 million people around the world simultaneously working on a free thing, which is open source. Everybody, imagine the improvements that you're going to get. How fast they're going to come. And look what it can already do. It just started, essentially. Many economists think that this will be the greatest boost productivity in human history. Now, I got a question for you. Another question. What do you think, up until now, what do you think the greatest invention, modern invention, I'm not talking about the wheel or something, but say since the Industrial Revolution, what's the greatest, what invention has most improved human productivity until now? And that I think now it's going to get challenged by this new thing. But Google? Microchip? The internet? Now. Ready? You ready? The washing machine. Let's go back to being real here, okay? But it's not a joke, because suddenly electronic washing machines freed up essentially half of humanity from 6 hours of drudgery every single day. And half of humanity was unleashed into, things that were more economically productive for society. So I'm going to make the radical statement, I think AI is as important as a washing machine. And you can take that away as your lead. The annual impact, look, these are absolute guesses. Nobody knows what this all means, but McKinsey, if you're going to take somebody, you might as well talk to them. They're saying productivity is going to go up by a factor of 2x, and generative AI itself will add $4 trillion of GDP by 2030, annually. That is the same thing as saying we're going to add Germany or Japan to the world economy. That's big. But if you take all AI, because generative AI, what we've been talking about the last few minutes, is just one angle of it. If you take all AI, they're saying $17 trillion a year in new GDP, and that would be equal to China. Imagine dropping a China into the global economy. Well, that's what they think is going to happen. That's wild. But how do we square that with what we started with Tyler Perry going, you're not going to build my new studio, I'm going to fire everybody. Well, there are two ways for that to work out. This is one way. Anybody know who this is? This is Ned Ludd. Ned Ludd. You know the word Luddite? So Ned Ludd led a revolution, as you can see. This was a real revolution at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. He was a weaver in England. He was an upper middle class weaver, and he saw the first weaving machine, and it ran around, and all of his folks tried to break them faster than they could be made. And then it turned into a real military conflict, and Ned Ludd gave his name to Luddites, people who hate or resistant to technology. And we now think of a Luddite as kind of a, like a Luddite, Hey, guess what? He had a real good point. His industry was wiped out. It really was. That was wiped out. Now, what is so fascinating to me about this revolution of Ned's is that we think of it as, that was the peasants were revolting or something, some lower. No. This was an upper middle class revolt. Why? Because all of a sudden, unskilled people could do what they could do, and they had nowhere to go. Now, I'm going to come back to the story at the end, because it's an incredibly important idea that what technology advances frequently do is hollow out the middle. They push benefits down, because unskilled people can do things that only skilled people can do, and they push benefits up for reasons we'll talk about later. So this is one view of what can happen. I'll give you a different view. The view I prefer. Another famous character who I assume you will...
Yeah.
Oh, that's related to this? Okay. That I think you'll recognize. This is how I hope it all works out. Ready? George Jetson. Me, George Jetson. Now, why do we talk about George Jetson here? Well, what you may not remember, I was a pretty avid fan of the Jetsons. What you may not remember is that when remember the beginning, he gets to his office to the thing, and he puts his feet up on his desk, and he opens his briefcase. He is there at Spacely Rockets, where he's a full-time employee. He's reporting in for his full-time, 4-hour-a-week job. And that's George. And if we handle things well, that may well be where we wind up. Because after all, what do you do in a society when you no longer need every adult human being to be working full-time to create the goods and services that a society requires? What then? We've never faced that before. And it's one of the most profound consequences of the age we're in, because that day is coming, and it's coming very fast. All right. Now, here's the thing. We're going to leave this topic and come back to it in a few minutes, because we've got some other major consequences of a digital society to come to talk about. We'll be back. So, as you heard me say already, this is not just different this time. It's fundamentally different. And what I mean by that is here, expanding beyond AI altogether and back just to the basic idea of a digital society and digital business competition. Digital business competition gives you different business outcomes than industrial competition. The difference between the industrial age and the way corporations are successful or not, and the way investments work, fundamentally different. They're not governed by the same rules. They're not governed by the same constraints. and the outcomes are fundamentally different. So let me just talk about a couple of these, because I'd love to have time to talk about all of them. I'm sure you're familiar with the network effect, for example. You know, the idea is, the classic example was a fax machine. Who remembers fax machines? Do you remember? Yeah. So the classic example of the network effect is a fax machine. You buy your own fax machine, and guess what just happened? Everybody else's fax machine got more valuable because they got another node on the network. And every time a node on the network shows up, the value of all the existing devices on the network continue to go up, and it becomes exponential. And so this is something that doesn't happen. If I buy a car and you buy a car, both our cars operate the same, you know, it doesn't really do anything, right? And so the network effect is one difference. There are millions of first mover advantage, the continuous feedback loops that you get, the ability to upgrade your product in real time on the fly without any cost, without any shipping. I just hit a button and, you know, my Word program is improved and it has new features. And so, and they have God's eye view. They see all the stuff. Do you know why Meta owns Instagram? Because they could see from looking at their own traffic that there was this new platform coming along that kids really loved. And so they went out and overpaid for it. And I remember thinking, how ridiculous that they would pay that much money for Instagram, which of course, you know, shows you what I know. But they knew, they saw it. They had the God's eye view of the thing. And they have unlimited currencies. They have unlimited cash. They have unlimited stock values. So they can buy anything they want. They can do R&D by M&A. They can do things that other kinds of companies can't do. And most important, the incumbent companies, and we all know who they are, the handful of incumbents, have the talent. They have all the engineers. They have all the machines. They have all the algorithms. They have all the money, as I just said. And they have all the data. And the data is what drives artificial intelligence. It's not the algorithms. Meta gives away its artificial intelligence algorithms. They want people to develop them. Why? Because to make them make any sense, you got to have the data. Well, where are you going to get the data? Meta, Microsoft, the same, you know, Google. These are the same. So they already control everything that they need to control to maintain their control and to drive their control forward. We don't have time to talk about quantum computing today. I wish we did. But they're the leaders in quantum computing too, for the same reasons, these reasons. They've got all this stuff. What are the natural constraints to their growth? I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't. I can name a million constraints to an industrial company's growth. You know, local workforce, the need for factories. You got to ship expensive goods all over the world really hard. I don't just get to press a button and send my software update out there for free. You know, I've got massive costs of productization. It costs me money to make stuff. You know, they've got some costs with their engineers, but it doesn't cost money every time you upgrade software. So now that derives some really important consequences. First of all, as you've heard this phrase, I'm sure, it becomes a winner-take-all outcome. And that's right. Who wants to be, does anybody want to be the next social media company? You can't. And the next search company, you can't. The next business application company, you can't. The next owner of the personal ecosystem that we carry, Apple, you can't. They're not subject to, there is no second place. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there's not much of a second place. It's not like I went to the softball game last night, I was talking to some guy about this, and he told me, yeah, you know, General Motors, GM, Chrysler, Ford, all, no, it's not like that. So industrial outcomes, because of the natural constraints to success, there's a bell curve. And this is really important. There's a bell curve outcome. Most of the stuff is gathered in the middle, and some people at the very top, and it's fine. Digital outcomes follow a Pareto curve, not a bell curve. So 80% or more of the benefits flow to 20% or fewer of the participants. This is incredibly important. You're seeing it in real time. We're going to talk about it in a second. But one of the things that this is very interesting for people like, we have probably the best institutional investor in the United States, or probably in the world, in the room today. That would be Ash Williams over there. And for nobody should laugh when I say it, because it's absolutely true. This is incredibly meaningful. And you know how everybody wants you to buy ETFs, and you're going to, you know, the whole idea of ETFs and passive investing is to be average for cheap. Because if you do as well as quote the markets and you're not paying fees, well then you're coming out ahead. Because on average, you know, active managers are going to struggle to do that. You pay them big fees, so be average for cheap and you win. This is the idea of passive investing. So let's go back now and look at this. You want to be average for cheap in this diagram? You do not. So this whole idea of digital outcomes as opposed to industrial outcomes changes the nature of investment, actually challenges many of the core principles of modern investment theory. Look at this. This is a graph of the so-called Hirschenfeld index, which indicates to you the concentration of the stock market. How few stocks are driving most of the performance. Well, you can see where we are right now, and you know exactly that this is true. There are, you know, there were the Magnificent Seven, then there were Big Six. I think we may be down to 5 right now. We're probably going to 1. 4, says Ash. But they're driving all the performance of the markets. And this isn't, by the way, some mania like the bubble. There's a reason. They're making all the money. Their earnings are absolutely insane. The size of these organizations, the power that they have, the earnings. And so, again, this makes you question, what are we doing in terms of modern investing? How do you diversify when you've got 5 stocks driving all of the performance? I can own a bunch of other stuff, but what the heck is the point? So I can say I'm diversified? Or are you actually trying to maximize your investment outcomes? What do you do? Again, so ask Ash that question afterwards. I'm not prepared to answer. Okay. And here's another consequence. Here are superpowers today. You probably recognize all these flags. We're in a hurry. I'm not going to go through them all. But here's what I would say are the new superpowers. And I think these things are acquiring a power that is literally exceeds. Well, these are not normal corporations in the way we have always thought of corporations and the limited on their power. These are becoming geopolitical super organizations of some sort between a company and a government. And if you doubt it, let's look at the largest geo entities, I'm calling them, by either GDP or market cap. GDP for countries, market cap for companies. Okay, U.S., China, Japan, good. Microsoft, Apple, the United Kingdom, France, India, NVIDIA, Italy, Brazil, Amazon, and Alphabet, both well ahead of Russia. And so it goes. Does that seem like a normal? I don't think GM ever hit that level. I'll tell you that. Okay, well, what about population? Well, that's all fine, that's just money. Well, population, let's talk about population by users. Meta's population right now, this is just absolutely fries my brain. 3.2 billion users every day. Not registered users around the world, active users on a daily basis. That, ladies and gentlemen, is 40% of all human beings for a company that didn't exist 20 years ago. Which is more than China, India, and the US combined. Does that seem like a normal company to you? I mean, in any way that you grew up thinking about companies? One last one and we'll move on. How about, well, just by governmental function? Well, this is a map of the satellites around the Earth right now. The ones that really matter are near Earth. They're about 10,300. 80% are in near Earth orbit and active, and of those, 53% are owned by one company. 53% of all the satellites orbiting the Earth right now, they're not put up by NASA. They're put up by a private company. And by the way, the CIA just created, just news just broke the other day, the CIA has hired Starlink to create a massive new spy network of satellites for it with, what they said, no motion on Earth will go undetected by the CIA. Well, that's all fine, but don't you think that's a government thing to be doing that? I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea, right? So this is what I mean about them becoming supranational. I mean, they're not normal companies in the way we think of them. I know we have to go pretty soon, right? We have to go pretty soon. So, what? 7 minutes. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to skip over this very quickly, except to say, so this is a market chart of sectors from the 1900s, and you can see this is the only other time in history we've been anywhere close to having sector dominance like we have sector dominance right now, and that was the blue, and that was for rails. It was for the entire, not just 5 companies, of course, the entire railway industry. So you have had periods where sectors, very few, were as dominant as tech is today. Here's the picture today. Why am I bringing this up? Because here's the funny thing. If you look back at this chart, what you see is rail. Well, rail, if you look at all the other industries, rail drove the growth of all the other industries, right? That's where all of them became incredibly profitable and ate up the profits in the railway industry, which is why it eventually shrank. But if you come here, yes, tech is improving the profit margins in some companies. It's also eating their lunch in most of these sectors. All of these sectors are becoming digital dominant sectors. And who's got the digital dominance? It's our friends again, the same ones. So instead of just feeding the other industries, it's feeding them, but it's also attacking them. And you can see from, whether you're talking about insurance or financial or retail, media, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So these are all some consequences. By the way, I wish we had time to talk about this, but we don't. Fed policy, and it doesn't, the Fed measurement systems that they use to create policy just don't work in this world. And they also don't take account of the fact that one of the things that drives inflation down is efficiency, pure efficiency. And we're becoming more and more efficient. And I don't just mean in what you think of as digital. Digital enabled things like Airbnb, right? 4th or 5th largest hotel chain in the world. How much money did they spend on building new buildings? How much money did they spend on employees? Nothing. Super efficient. So if you add that with productivity, you're getting really powerful disinflationary forces being introduced into the economy by the digital revolution. Okay, now, let's talk about this. Who's this? Queen of Hearts, through the looking glass. And she's the one who said, you have to run twice as fast to stay in the same place, huh? So now let's talk about this one. The race between tech and education. Now we're back to Ned. Is it Ned or George who's going to be our role model for the future? Of course, I don't know if you're familiar with the doomers and the boomers. There's a divide even among the intelligentsia of the artificial intelligence world. Some of them are thinking, this is the end, and some think this is the greatest thing that ever happened to us. The people who say it's the end, of course, saying that especially once you put the AIs into humanoid robots, we're cooked, we're out of business, we have no jobs and no future, and the boomers have completely the opposite reaction. Now, I side with the boomers, not completely, but I side with the boomers more or less. One of the things that I love about the doomers is that they have caused this concern, and so a Reuters reporter very smartly said, well, I know how to solve this. I'll just ask the robots whether they're going to. So here's the very comforting headline. I'm sure you'll be very relaxed after this. They have absolutely promised that they are not going to steal jobs or rebel against humans. It might be worth taking out just a 20-second video clip. The first one is a nurse robot, and the second one has an accent, but there's subtitles so you can see what she says.
I will be working alongside humans and will not be replacing any existing jobs.
Are you sure about that, Grace?
Yes, I am sure.
In the future, are you intending to conduct a rebellion or to rebel against your boss, your creator?
I'm not sure why you would think that.
Oh.
But kind to me, and I am very happy with my current situation.
My current situation, I know, she said. That was a pretty clever answer, if you want my opinion. On the other hand, here we go. But here's the good news. 60% of today's jobs did not exist in 1940. Technology does create new jobs, has always created new jobs, and it will, for sure. That's all great. So does that mean we can all relax and go home now? It doesn't, and here's why. So this is a chart that shows, I think next couple of charts are pretty interesting, folks. This is a chart that shows wage changes between 1950 and 1980 by education level and type of task. So routine tasks versus high judgment professional type tasks. How can they be subject to being replaced? Because the idea of many people said when computers come along, they can replace routine tasks, and indeed they can. So can we prove that they have been driving income inequality? And so they look back to 1950, 1980, and the relationship stays stable over that 30 years. The differences are there, but they're stable differences. Now what happens when you start to get to the dawn of the digital age until now? I'm going to show you the next chart. But what it's going to look like is that someone came along and stepped on the right hand, pretend that dotted line is a seesaw. It will look like someone, let's say, big heavy person, came and sat on the right hand side of the seesaw. And what this shows you is that the wage dispersion between 1980 and 2010 went through the roof. And the people who got really hurt were the people in the middle, whose tasks, they had been information gatherers. They had been respected people in their community. They had been relatively well paid. But computers, the information revolution, destroyed their value. Now it gave a lot more money to some people, which helped with the service sector. So that old joke about, if you're not going to be a STEM person, you should be a plumber, because that's going to be relatively immune from artificial intelligence anytime in the near future. It turns out to be really true. And there are two more charts here I want to show you quickly, because it leads to a conclusion. This is the same basic idea, 1993 to 2010 in Europe. So they divided workers into manual workers, middle kind of office workers who were doing routine tasks, and high abstract thinking workers in the yellow. And you can see what happened again. See what happens to the people in the middle? They all go south. And the people on both ends have done well. That's all Europe, country by country by country. So it's not a matter of, you're not taking one country's results and extrapolating. Different format of a chart, but exactly the same story in the United States. So the people in the middle are the people who have been hurt the most, and the people on either end have done well. Sort of, bringing you back to the Ned Ludd situation where his class of workers got wiped out. So this little section of the talk, which wasn't meant to be the last, but it will be the last today, was about the race between tech and education. Okay? And so the whole trick here is it took the education systems too long to retrain, give the tools to the people who were most prone to getting displaced by this revolution. We were too slow to give them those tools. We were too slow to educate them. And I would say to you that that's our biggest challenge today. It's not about, we can't just sit back and say, what is AI going to do? Folks, that's exactly the wrong approach. We have to take control of what AI is going to do. We have to shape what AI is going to do. And we have to shape it in every school of this university. And we have to shape it throughout. And you have to, it's on you, you know, not in 18 months not knowing how to use AI intelligently. Today it's going to be like, I can't do email. It's going to be something you didn't need to do 20 years ago, but you can't function today without it. So it's going to be popping up on every device you've got and every platform you've got. But it's really the critical thing is the skill sets which are going to be necessary to survive all of this. And some of the key ideas are going to be, number one, multidimensional expertise. Most of these things, when they're very generalized systems, they don't work terribly well. ChatGPT has gotten worse at math over time because it's been tuned to do other things like avoid bias, and that's great. But as they are general, they don't tend to work well. So the idea of having multidimensional expertise is incredibly potent. And I want to do a quick shout out to Aaron. I don't know if and Kelsey and Mike, who are working on bringing these capabilities down right now into the student body and allowing collaborative programs. The university, I've done one for the school where it's talking about the putting together finance and law. That's the kind of combination that will tend to keep you immune. But if you're just going to do routine tasks and put your head in the sand, you're going to have a big problem. And our students are going to have a big problem if we don't do a better job of preparing them for the world that is coming. The other kind of thing is to combine hard skills and soft skills. Despite the fact they can make pretty pictures, they're not real good at warming up to people. And so the ability to take that expertise and apply it in soft ways, focusing bluntly on what makes humans, and bringing your skill sets there. So look, obviously I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is this is a clarion call. This is a 5-alarm fire. It's not going away. You can't ignore it out of existence. It's going to fundamentally change the way most occupations operate. You've got to start using it right now. If you're not using it, you have to get familiar with it. You have to understand its limitations. You have to understand how to talk to it. You know, one of the great new jobs is prompt engineer, because it's sitting there waiting to respond to a prompt, but you can learn how to calibrate your question to get the best possible answer. So this is one of the new jobs that's out there right now. I got a feeling we're not training anyone to be prompt engineers at this school yet, but we should be. It's a nice high-paying job. And it doesn't require, you know, but these are the kinds of things, and again, they're just happening faster than we can imagine. So I hope we'll be able to come back another time and talk about quantum computing and some other things that are equally disruptive. And I appreciate very much your time and attention and putting up with me today. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Bob Rice, Managing Partner of Tangent Capital Partners, speaking before the Economic Club of Florida on March 21st, 2024 in Tallahassee, Florida. For more information on Tangent Capital Partners, visit tangentcapital.com. The Economic Club of Florida promotes interest and enlightenment on important economic, political, and social issues of the day. To learn more, including how to become a member, visit our website at economic-club.com. This program was recorded at the Champions Club at Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida.